Welcome, folks. Well, would you look at this hot mess? And yeah, you guessed it, Datsuns. We just can't get enough of these little cars. I think the theme for this is a little goes a long way, because they don't really need a whole lot, at least for my home racing, to smooth them out and get them right where I want them. So, if you don't mind, follow along. Let's get started. Alright, there can be tire to body rub. As you can see here, this is the indicator, this wear mark. Alright, this is overspray paint. A couple of them have that. But this is definitely a rub mark. So the tire is making contact. The question is, why? Well, let's get to it. Alright, this chassis out of the box does come with float. The system, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The 4 brass nuts that you see have a shoulder on them, and they're designed to allow movement between the inner chassis plate and the outer chassis plate. Perhaps this will show you a little bit better, but it's there and you can hear it and you can see it. The challenge for some folks is that the design of the body to chassis mount system for these little cars is different than some of the modern GT cars. For example, this is the Toyota, and it has a ton of float. Look at that. Look at all that float. And that's just those 4 brass nuts. They're not loosened, they're tightened. That's the amount of float it's supposed to give the car. The difference is the outer chassis plate, 1, 2, 3, and 4, is fully mounted to the body, yet allows independent movement of the chassis. That's the magic, right? That's great. So you don't loosen these. However, on these cars, on our little rascals here, that's not the case. What you have to do is you have to have a balance of just loosening these a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit, to make sure you can free up this inner plate. So I've loosened this just a little bit, not too much, and that's exactly what you have to do in order to get that float. You don't need to go too far with this. So I'll show you my example of how far I've went, and we'll talk about shims if needed. So another thing Revoslot does differently is their body to chassis mount system. They incorporate these rubber cups that fit over the body post, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in this case, we have black up front and we have red in the rear. What does that mean? What does this do? Well, it's important that you know that when it comes tuning time. So inside the box, you have your part sheet here. You go right down here, rubber covers. Says 5mm, 1, 1.5, 2, blue, black, white, and red. So what it's telling us is that we have the 1mm black up front and we have the 2mm red in the rear. What does that really mean? Well, here's a cup. All right, here's a stock cup right here, and it has this sleeve on it, and this sleeve serves a purpose as it goes over the body post, helps keep it secure. Makes perfect sense. What I've done is I've removed that just to show you what they're talking about thickness-wise. So I've gotten rid of the sleeve and brought up Mr. Midatoyo here, he never lies. And we're measuring that thickness of the bottom of the cup. That's what they're referring to in the sheet right here, those thicknesses. And in this case, yes, 1mm. So it's important to leave these cups in place because that's what sets the distance of the body away from the chassis. If you remove these cups, you're going to lower it, and you're probably going to get some really bad tire to body rub. So these cups are important. Just keep them in place. You can add to them if you want to. You shouldn't have to, but you can, and I'll show you that next. This is just a sample of the rings and washers that I have here, most commonly used. Slot car corner dampening rings, these silicone rings, they work great. Good sound deadening qualities. You can see this one's a little bit thicker. You can get them in different thicknesses. In fact, some people like these so much that they remove the cups, the stock cups, and they use these in their place. And you can do that if you want to. But this one, they're a little bit too thick, and I just want to use what we have with the car. Second up is MR slot car dampening washers. These rubber washers, just outstanding. I've used them so much for this exact purpose. A lot of people like those, and you get them in different thicknesses as well. But lately, I've kind of just used the axle spacers from SEC. They're kind of color coded to dictate the thickness. So this is 10,000s, 20,000s, black is 30,000s, and you can see my tray, it just goes up to 40 and 50. But these are the three common sizes. I just, if I need a little bit more to fine tune, I just stack them. Well, anyway, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to place these right on top of the body posts. So I'll show you how I do that next. Another unique feature of Revoslot that's different than the other brands is the body to chassis mount system. We've shown this before, 1, 2, 3, and 4 screws. But in case you didn't know, you don't have to take these completely out. Just loosen them, okay? All you have to do is loosen them a little bit, and then you can just flex the body, just like that, and pop it out. There you have it. So with that system, that's why I like taking the shims and putting them on top of the cups here, just like this. You can glue them if you want to. I'll show you that in a minute. But this way, you keep the convenience of the snap-in fit, right? So now that you have it, the shims put in the way you want, and you're testing the height, then you can just flex it, put it right back. Good to go. Now make your adjustments. I like that. You don't need to glue the shim unless you want to. Just install it on the screw like that. You'll see this other one's already done. And you just put your screw back in. You're good to go. Now you can just tighten it up just a little bit, just a few turns here, just to make sure it's secure. And then now, as we've shown, flex the body, install the chassis, and you can see that the shim is laying right where it's supposed to be. Again, if you want to glue them, sometimes I guess they can get fiddly. If you want to glue them, make sure they stay in place. You can, but it's not required. Just a closer look at the brass nuts that provide the float between the chassis plates. You'll notice the shoulder on there, and Revoslot has different sizes for you to choose from if you want to adjust the amount of float. For example, if you check your data sheet that comes with the car, RS208, brass nuts times 4. That's what's installed in the car, 208. If you flip it over and you look at the spare parts that are available, you see 208A, B, C, and D with different sizes, 1 millimeter, 2, 2.5, and 3. Okay, that's the thickness of the brass nut with the shoulder. And then you'll see that this first one, 208A, not 208, is 0 floating. The one that comes with the car is 208, and you can order it separate. That's the number you see here. And it is 1.5 millimeter. So it's not 0 floating, as we've shown. It provides just a little bit of float. So when it's tightened down, you still have, as you can hear and see, a little bit of float. So 1.5 to me, the stock ones that come with the car, is more than enough float, for my home racing at our track. But again, if you want more, if you need more, I think, again, I give Revoslot the nod. They're making these extras for you. So if you need them, just check your data sheet here on the back and give them an order. So you'll notice all the screws that this car has in the chassis for all the adjustments from the motor. Then you have your bulkheads right here for the front and rear axle. And of course, the brass nuts that we're talking about for the chassis float. There's just quite a few. Now, it's just me, but some folks might tell you that on race day, it might be a good idea to make sure those things are locked down, they stay there. So some good old Loctite thread locker, just the old-fashioned blue, the removable, is probably not a bad idea. I go in ahead and I installed just a drop. You don't need a whole lot. Again, that theme, a little bit goes a long way. And I just put a little bit there. And for the example here in the video, I just put a little piece of tape there, to hold it down. And then using your 5 millimeter, just put that nut down, tighten it down, and the thread locker, well, he'll keep it that way. Not a requirement, like I said, but just something to think about. There you have it, just a little bit of information. I hope it helps you. Yes, tired of body rub. It happens with these cars. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does. But these cars, they're just not the slap on the track. Just go let your Carrera, etc. cars, they require just a little bit of work. And I really don't think that's a dig against them. These are made for you, the racer, the enthusiast. You're used to some wrench time, adding a shim or two, a little bit of lubrication, an adjustment here, etc. It doesn't bother you. It's the quality components. They just need a little bit of attention by you, and you can just bring it out in these cars. And man, will they haul the mail. Not to mention that they just look so good, don't they? Anyway, like I said, just a few things. As always, I look forward to your feedback online. I hope all are safe and well out there, and that you're enjoying these cars. And please share with us, your tuning tips, your advice, whether it's tires, chassis adjustment, you name it. That's the fun of this hobby. It's just milking these things for all they're worth. So anyway, like I said, look forward to your comments online. We'll see you there.